Nope.
Oh, yeah, I'll make you a smoothie.
Maybe.
You want one?
Not really.
It's good for you.
Yeah, maybe later. I don't know. I'm not really in the mood for a smoothie. Don't come over here.
Well, maybe it's good for you?
Maybe it is good for you.
Maybe it's good for you, so I make one.
Okay. Can you make it taste good?
So mean.
Like no avocado?
So mean to me.
No, like no avocado this time?
No what?
No avocado?
What?
No avocado?
That's the part that's good for you. I'll make it taste good, even though it's avocado.
Okay. Good morning, Sloth.
Well, the avocado's like good fats that you need
Yeah,
for your brain.
but it takes away all the good berry flavors.
That's good. Good for you. Come on.
Are you okay? That's clear?
No. I'm dying.
Don't say that.
Good run.
You had a good run?
Yeah.
Good morning, all. It sounds like I'm becoming a widow this morning. Apparently, I'm a widow. Ah, beans. I don't want to be a widow so young. I'm too young to be a widow.
I'm too old to be a dead.
You're too old to be dead?
Too young to be dead? One of those.
You're too young to be dead.
To be a dead.
To be a dead? You're definitely too young to be a dead, whatever that means. It was so short. Yeah, you're right.
But like, you know, truly devastating for you, right?
It's insanely devastating. I had no intention of this happening.
Like really bad.
It's so bad that I don't know what to do about
It
it.
would ruin your weekend for sure.
More than my weekend. It would potentially ruin my whole life. Forget weekend. Life.
Whoa.
Yeah, not good. They're all telling you to rest in peace, at least.
Rip in pieces.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Press X to.
Yes. Press F to pay respects.
There you go.
Press F to pay respects.
I played that.
Oh, are you going to at least become a ghost and stay here with me? Because that might be okay.
You want me to haunt you?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Hey, Jen. Oh, it was just the prologue, so you're actually okay. Although, I mean, his prologues are obviously very good.
Oh, I could be like Patrick Swayze in Ghost. So,
Yes, Amanda.
So if
Yeah, you should just stick around anyway. Those are great pants. I forgot about those pants.
yeah, nice.
I think they emailed me the other day telling me they're back in stock if you want more. I'm just saying. You're playing with your new slime? Yay! Which one did you get, Spinelli? I can't remember, but remind me. That's very exciting. Everyone should be.
Like this?
I do actually like them like that. A little Huck Finn, but it's cute. We had a little barbecue kind of thing the other day, and I was wearing one of my little jumpers, and Secret Husband's friend called me Huck Finn. Hamilton and gasoline. Whoa. Naisa said, even though she can't see your pants, she agrees they're great pants. He said thank you. Whoa, cherries and berries. But either do the berries and cherries or the tropicals. Don't mix them. That's when it gets bad. The flavors don't mix good. No. No. I want either tropical or berry. Berry. All berries. Oops, all berries. Except not oops. Just all berries. How's everyone doing this morning? Who got filtered? Was it Becca? The things with TikTok filters Becca for are actually insane to me. I mean, sometimes Becca will say. Sometimes she'll say something like, oh, my kid said hi or whatever, and it'll filter her, and I'm like, why? The office is a ghost town. Okay, I read that totally wrong. I don't know why, but
all offices can be ghost towns for the rest of the time.
Yeah, what he said. Good morning,
Offices
good
are evil
morning.
places that steal your soul.
Yeah, what he said. Oh, you're reactivating which old slime? That's one of my favorite activities. I actually love reactivating old slime.
When are you doing the pet rock video that I suggested?
Oh, I do need to do
How to make a slime pet rock.
How to make a slime pet rock. Yes. I feel like some people might feel like I'm making fun of them. They might get upset.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But it would be like a good, like, hey, don't do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
But they might take it personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One good idea for the year.
Oh no, for the year? Jeez Louise. I used to get filtered at least half the things I said. I told a friend, oh, you're here. Yeah, some of the things that get filtered, I'm like, it's not bad. Why did we filter, oh, you're here? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Here you go. Look at your beautiful coffee. It looks like a tree.
It is a tree. Thank you.
Yeah. Wait, I need that. So I got my third email back from YouTube about the YouTube issue that we've been having with the book club uploads. They're still working on it. It's still a new glitch that they've never seen before, and they're trying to figure it out. Found a brand new glitch, babe. Can you believe it? It's here for the milk.
Is it on the entire mobile platform or just for Apple stuff or what is it?
Apparently it's just for me.
Oh. Have you uninstalled the app and reinstalled it?
I haven't uninstalled it, reinstalled it, but I did update the app.
Sometimes you just gotta like.
Yeah, I should probably uninstall and reinstall it. I asked them, and they didn't say to do that, but maybe I should. I told them all the things I did to troubleshoot.
Yeah.
And they were like, wow, you did a lot of things already. I was like, well, yeah, I wasn't trying to just bother you for no reason. Like, I only go to customer service if I legitimately need help. Yeah, apparently, Jen. Oh, hey, Becca.
At our next walk, we should just go over to YouTube and just talk to them.
Yeah, right? Go ahead.
Were you scared?
I wasn't scared. What would I be scared of? The water? Oh, no, I'm not. I don't bother me. Can I borrow that for a second?
Yes.
Okay, it's time for books. Is everybody excited to read the book? It's morning time. More books.
I didn't mix those in.
Thank you. That was very kind of you. I think we left the TV on. Uh-oh.
What?
Yeah.
You turn it off?
I'm going to in a second. I just have to have a hand. Okay. I'm here. Good morning, everybody. It's time to read our book.
Is it off now?
It is off now. Today is my niece Zoe's birthday, in case anyone needs to know. And by needs to know, I mean whatever. Now you know. She's 4 today. Yeah, it's a need to know basis. She's 4 years old today.
4 years young.
4 years young today. All right. We just started the Tale of Sorcery. If you missed yesterday, what happened was hilarious. I'm sorry that I cannot upload it right now. As I just explained, I'm having a back and forth with YouTube trying to get the things uploaded, but I will give you a very basic overview of what happened yesterday in case you missed it. We thought that the righteous king was going to execute all of Bristol's family, when they brought them out onto the stage to execute them, suddenly they were not acting like themselves, and we were like, wait a second, and it turns out it was Lucy and the other little witches dressed as her family, like they had like glamored themselves to look like her family members, and Lucy had written a play for them, and they were acting it very poorly. It was hilarious, absolutely hilarious, but her family was escaped to safety as a result, so all good things there. Instead? What?
And then they got escaped?
No, they're witches, they escaped. They went magic-y magic. Yeah, it was hilarious. Smoothie dance? Okay, we're gonna smoothie dance before we read, and then we'll get into reading. Everybody grab your dance partner. Sing your partner round and round. Yes, Lucy, Bristol's whole family is safe. We don't know where they are or if Bristol has seen them, but what we do know is they are safe. We were told that. So the family is safe. It was funny at once because, like, the way that the character of Bristol's mom was talking, I was like, this doesn't sound like Bristol's mom. It was very funny. Yes, and Bristol and Lucy went to the library to look for something, though what it is we don't know. They didn't find it. They were attacked by the army, and they just narrowly escaped. And that's where we're at now. Post-narrow escape.
Post-haste.
Post-haste. Can you read now, please? Yes, I am going to read now. Yes. Okay. Chapter 2, The Countdown. Tick, tick, tick. Bristol always resented the sound of a ticking clock, whether she was counting down the hours before she could escape the school for future wives and mothers, or counting down the minutes that she had left to secretly read books in the Chariot Hills library. Bristol didn't think a clock could sound any more ominous than it already did. But she was dead wrong. Tick, tick, tick. Bristol glanced down at the silver pocket watch attached to her wrist. To someone else, the watch would have shown it was a few minutes before noon, and to someone else, the watch's soft ticking would have barely been noticeable. But to Bristol, the gentle gears were deafening. Her watch wasn't counting down the hours of her day. It was counting down the days of her life. Right? Yeah. No, not our lives, her life.
Days of our lives. Is it good?
Yummy! 2
You
weeks.
have little faith.
I have so much faith.
No, you didn't.
I did. I do.
You had zero faith.
I have all the faith. 2 weeks. That's all you have left. To locate the ancient spell book. To destroy the immortal. And yet, you still haven't found either of them. Tick, tick, tick. You're no closer now than you were a year ago. You have to accept the truth. You're out of time. 13 days. You will die. The curse on Bristol's mind rarely surfaced these days. She'd become so good at ignoring the disturbing thoughts that she barely noticed them anymore. Even when they occasionally got her attention, Bristol loved putting them in their place. For her, the disturbing thoughts were no longer a powerful curse. They were just an old friend she loved arguing with. You might be right, she thought, but who isn't on borrowed time? Whose days aren't numbered? Knowing when my life ends just means I can make the most of the time that I have left. I am not going to waste a second of it. Bristol clicked the watch shut and tucked it into the pocket of her pantsuit. She was standing in the window of her office in the Academy of Magic, taking in the view of the rolling green hills and the sparkling blue ocean and the shimmering golden castle around her. Bristol made it a point to admire the fairy territory whenever she could, knowing each opportunity might be her last. However, she didn't let herself linger for too long. Death or no death, she had a lot of work to do. Thankfully, Bristol didn't bear the burden of finding the ancient spellbook and the immortal alone. For the first time, instead of sparing her friends from the tooth, Bristol had confided in them. They all knew about her deal with death. They all knew that Bristol only had a year to find the immortal and destroy her with the ancient spellbook, or her life would end.
And before Bristol could even ask her friend's help, they went straight to work. Over the past 11 months and 2 weeks, Bristol's office had turned into the center of a thorough investigation. The fairies covered every surface of the glass furniture with stacks of maps and address books of every known library, bookstore, and book collector in the world. And while they worked tirelessly on locating the ancient spellbook, the witches worked diligently on identifying the immortals. My kids are feral. Yes, your kids are a little bit feral, but what good isn't feral? All the walls in the office were filled with birth certificates, death certificates, and the portraits of very, very old ladies. After Bristol and Lucy's trip to Chariot Hills Library, all the libraries had been officially searched. And so the fairies focused their efforts on contacting bookstores and renowned book collectors. The fairies wrote under pseudonyms to keep the mission a secret, asking the sellers and collectors about any older publications. Older publications that they might have in their possession. Each morning, Horrence, the knight, heaved a heavy sack of mail into the office, and the fairies dug through the letters hoping for a positive lead. I just got a letter from the Bookworm bookshop in Tinsel Heights, Emerald announced. I guess the bookstore closed a while ago and was turned into a coffee shop. Oh, dang. That's the fourth one this month. They say that they donated their books to the local orphanage, but none of them were older than a decade or two. The book collector from the Fort Longsworth finally got back to me, Tangerina said. Mr. Gibbonson said he'd be happy to show us his collection of old textbooks and his collection of taxidermied raccoons. The second part is a little concerning, but the first part's promising. Well, I have an update from the Eastern Kingdom, Xanthos said. The Page Turner bookstore is in Iron Hand, and they say they specialize in antique books from all over the globe. They even have a few titles dating back to the reign of King Champion I. We should definitely go and check that out. Along with the mail, every morning, Horrence also delivered a stack of newspapers from various cities around the world. The witches scanned through the obituaries to help them eliminate potential immortal suspects. Another one bites the dust, Lucy proclaimed. Faradine Fairtucket officially kicked the bucket last week at 112 years old. She survived by 4 children, 15 grandchildren, and 7 much younger ex-husbands. Well, way to go, Faradine. Her last words were, "Oh, there you are, God. I thought you forgot about me." Classic. That, you know what? I want those to be my last words as well. I want to be 112 and I want to be like, I thought you forgot me here.
Well, I have some sad news too, Pip said. Esther Wig passed away at the age of 103. She was laid to rest yesterday in Tinsel Heights Forever Cemetery. It says she died peacefully in her husband's sleep. Apparently, Esther was an insomniac. Well, dang it. I was really hoping that she'd be the one.
Well, it looks like Wendella Parkweed's no longer with us either, Sprout said. She just passed days before her 105th birthday. Wendella's survived by her beloved felines, Mayor Whiskers, Purr Baby, Snow Mittens, Dr. Hairball, Angel Toes, and Grumpy Puss II. Her cause of death is still unknown, but that's because the cats ate her corpse. Awesome, Stitches said with a wide grin. Mind if I hang on to that one? Stitches cut out the obituary from the old newspaper and pasted it into the scrapbook she was keeping of gruesome obituaries. While Stitches saved the clippings, BB flew around the office and drew a big red X on the portraits that belonged to Faradine Fairtuck, Esther Wig, and Wendella Parkweed. We're running out of Sagittarius who's suspects, BB said. Alleged Centarian suspects, Stitches said. I keep telling you guys, it doesn't matter what the newspapers say. These obituaries could be fake. The only way we'll know for sure is we dig up these women and make sure they're actually dead. Pip gulped and raised her hand.
Bristol, can I be reassigned to the ancient spellbook? The immortal investigation sounds like it's taking a turn.
I hate to validate her, but Stitches sounds like she has a point, Emeralda said. Who knows how many times the immortals had to fake her death to avoid suspicion? If we're going to track her down, we'll have to think outside the box. It's not like the oldest woman in the world is just going to walk through the door. Suddenly, The office doors swung open and Mrs. V stepped in. Well, hello, the bubbly housekeeper sang. I thought you all might be hungry, so I wished you up some boysenberry souffle. You aren't going to believe this, but one of the prisoners you rescued from the Righteous Empire yesterday is an award-winning pastry chef. How lucky is that? We've been exchanging recipes all morning. Stitches, Sprout, BB, per your dietary request, I sprinkled some spider legs in your souffle to remind you of home, but that's not the first time I put a bug in someone's food. Skylene's eyes grew wide and she pointed an accusatory finger at the housekeeper.
Oh my God, Mrs. V is the immortal,
she declared.
Why didn't we think of it sooner? She's the oldest person we know. Even her jokes are ancient.
Mrs. V rolled her eyes and set the tray of boysenberry souffles on the tea table. Once again, Skylene, I'm humbled by your high opinion of me, the housekeeper said. If I was the immortal, do you think I would look like this? What do you mean, Mrs. V? Tangerine asked. Well, I imagine the best part of being immortal is that you don't age, she explained. Otherwise, why would anyone even want to live forever? I wouldn't want to spend eternally getting older and older and older, weaker and weaker. I don't even like raisins in salad. I certainly wouldn't want to look at one in the mirror. The fairies and witches froze and looked at one another in collective dread.
Of course,
Pip said and anxiously tugged on her ears.
The whole time we've been looking for an old woman. But the immortal could be any age. That means she could be anybody.
That's like finding a needle in a mountain of hay, BB said. How are we supposed to turn Dracker down?
Everybody relax, Stitches said. There's a very simple solution to this. We'll just have to dig up every woman who's ever lived. I'm more than happy to lead the charge.
The fairies and witches moped around the office, moaning and groaning despairingly. Strangely, the one person the revelation affected the most seemed to be affected the least. Bristol remained surprisingly calm, as if the development was trivial as a weather forecast. Well, we'll just have to expand the search, that's all, she said with a shrug. Now, let's get back to the ancient spellbook. Tangerina, I want you and Skylene to visit the book collector in Fort Longsworth as soon as possible and bring back anything that resembles what we're looking for. And Xanthos, I want you and Emeralda to go to the Eastern Kingdom straight away and check out the Page Turner's bookstore. Make sure that you're dressed as civilians, though. Please hide your magic. We don't want word getting out that the Fairy Council is looking for an ancient book. Emeralda crossed her arms and gave Bristol a stern look like she was reading her mind. And to Bristol's dismay, Emeralda usually could. Is it just my imagination, or are you more interested in finding the ancient spell book than the immortal? Emeralda asked. Bristol sighed. Well, at this point, I think finding the book is a better use of our time. Okay, but we need both of them to save you from death, Emeralda said. I hope your curse isn't trying to confuse you again. No, this isn't the curse talking. I promise, she said. I only have 2 weeks left to live, and I want to be as productive and practical as possible. Finding the immortal will only save me, but finding the ancient spellbook will save the entire world. Whatever spell is powerful enough to destroy the immortal is also powerful enough to destroy the army of the dead, and it would put an end to Seven and the Righteous Brotherhood's reign of terror once and for all. I'll die much happier knowing that you all have the tools to finally defeat them. Okay, well, that's very noble of you, but like you said, we still have 2 whole weeks, Emeralda said. Even if our chances of finding the immortal are slim, we still have to do our best. Otherwise, we'll regret not doing what we could to save you. Hey, Danielle. The fairies and the witches nodded along with Emeralda's remarks. Bristol was touched by their devotion. All right, then, she said. I won't give up just yet. Lucy cleared her throat. Can I throw in my 2 cents into this tip jar? If you're looking for something practical and productive to do with your time, there's a very practical and very productive source of information that we still haven't even consulted yet, she said, raising her eyebrows impatiently. If anyone knows how to find the immortal or the spellbook, it's gonna be Madame Weatherberry. Bristol took a deep breath and looked to the floor. Yeah, I know, she said. It's just asking her for help means that I have to tell her the truth about everything, and she was so happy to hear about the legalization of magic. I can't imagine how helpless she'll feel knowing about the army of the dead and my deal with death. It just seems cruel to trouble her. Lucy placed her hands on her hips. Bristol, the woman is frozen in a block of ice in the middle of nowhere. She's not exactly living the good life. Bristol turned to the enchanted globe beside her and gazed at the twinkling lights above the northern mountains. Unbeknownst to the others, Bristol had a very specific reason for not seeking out Madame Weatherberry's help, and it had nothing to do with making Madame Weatherberry feel helpless. Unfortunately, Bristol had put the meeting off for as long as she could. All right, you're right, she said. I should speak to her while I still have the chance. So, okay, we all have our assignments. Xanthos and Emeralda will travel to the Eastern Kingdom. Tangerina and Skylene will visit the book collectors in Fort Longworth. Stitches, Sprout, and BB, and Pip will start searching for women who look really, really good for their age. In the meantime, Lucy and I will head north. Bristol and Lucy dressed in their warmest clothes and left for the northern mountain that afternoon. They departed the Academy of Magic in a giant bubble and soared high above the troll and goblin territories and were descending into the chilly northern kingdom by nightfall. The bubble landed safely on a slope directly below the shimmering northern lights, and the girls searched the snowy terrain for Madame Weatherberry's cave. Thankfully, the weather was kind tonight, and the entrance was easy to spot. It had been over a year since Bristol visited Madame Weatherberry, and she and Lucy wandered down a long entrance tunnel and emerged into the spacious cave. Everything felt eerily familiar, as if the cold air had frozen time itself. Yes, I also want to travel by bubble. That sounds fantastic. Bristol waved her wand and covered all the stalactites above in twinkling lights that illuminated the cave like a dozen chandeliers. The girls headed to the back of the cave where the grisly Snow Queen was frozen in a wall of ice. Every inch of the witch's monstrous appearance, from her cracked and frostbitten skin to her jagged and rotten teeth, was just as terrifying as they remembered, if not more.
Well, this is a pleasant surprise, a soft voice said behind them.
Bristol and Lucy turned around and discovered the spirit of a beautiful woman standing behind them. She wore an elegant plum dress that matched the color of her bright eyes, and her dark hair was styled beneath an elaborate fascinator with feathers and ribbons. The woman's smile was so warm that Bristol could have sworn the temperature rose a few degrees. "Hello, Madame Weatherberry," Bristol said. "It's wonderful to see you again."
"Holy egg whites! You look fantastic," Lucy declared. "Isolation has done you wonders. If I didn't know better, I'd ask for your magical surgeon."
Madame Weatherberry chuckled.
"Oh, it's nice to see you too, Lucy," she said. "I'm guessing Bristol had told you the truth about why I'm here."
Actually, the others know about it too, Bristol confessed.
"I can't imagine the disappointment I've caused," Madame Weatherberry said and somberly shook her head. "Finding out I lied is one thing, but learning that I was behind the Snow Queen all along is indefensible. I'm profoundly sorry and hope that you can forgive me."
"Forgive you? Madame Weatherberry, I'm here to option the playwrights," Lucy said.
"Pardon?"
she asked. "I mean, your life story is a theatrical smash hit waiting to happen." Lucy said, "Think about it. The Snow Queen grew inside of you like a parasite, feeding off a lifetime of suppressed heartbreak and rage. That's every actor's dream role. And how you unleash the Snow Queen on a world that hated magic just to prove how the world needed magic, man. What a genius third act twist. And now you're stuck in an icy cavern with a spirit detached from your former body, forced to relive your mistakes over and over again until the end of time. I smell awards. This show is going to run longer than bats." Madame Weatherberry didn't know what to say. She never thought that her personal tragedies could be, profitable.
"Well, I'm glad you find my life so entertaining, Lucy," she said.
"Yeah, I'll draw up the contracts another day," Lucy said. "Right now we got much bigger fish to fry. Go ahead, Bristol." Lucy gave Bristol an aggressive pat on the back and nudged her forward. Bristol's body immediately went tense as she gazed at the snowy ground to avoid making eye contact. Before saying a word, Bristol had already regretted speaking. "Madame Weatherberry, do you remember our last conversation?" she asked.
"Oh, how could I forget?" Madame Weatherberry asked. "You told me the wonderful news about the legalization of magic. You had your concerns about your friend Pip joining a school of witchcraft. You mentioned you had been feeling sad, and you couldn't explain why, and you told me the unfortunate return of the righteous brotherhood."
Bristol nodded sheepishly and focused all her attention on the snow beneath her shoes. "Yeah, right," she said. "Well, there've been a few updates."
"Good updates?"
the fairy asked. Bristol and Lucy exchanged discouraging glances, and Madame Weatherberry's bright smile faded. "Treat it like a Band-Aid, Bristol," Lucy said. "The quicker the better." Bristol took a deep breath and straightened her posture and began the summary of the previous year. She started by telling Madame Weatherbury that her disturbing thoughts had been caused by a horrible curse, but thankfully, she'd learned to manage it. Bristol told her that she had been cursed by Mistress Mara, the founder of the Ravencrest School of Witchcraft, and how the witch was using the school as a front to create a shadow beast to boost her powers. And next, Bristol explained that Mr. Mara had teamed up with the Righteous Brotherhood, and together they had used the shadow beast to bring back the invincible army of the dead. And finally, Bristol had the unfortunate task of telling Madame Weatherbury that the Righteous Brotherhood had taken over the Southern Kingdom and turned it into an oppressive righteous empire.
Oh, my word, Madame Weatherbury gasped. Even in my worst nightmares, I had never dreamed of something so terrible.
Yeah, but wait, there's more, Lucy said. Clearly, Madame Weatherbury couldn't imagine how things could possibly be worse. She just thought of telling her the next part. The thought of telling her the next part made Bristol feel physically ill. She closed her eyes and clenched her fists as if squeezing the information out of her body. Okay, well, at one point, the curse convinced me to surrender to the Righteous Brotherhood, she said. They took me to their fortress and they killed her, Lucy said. Madame Weatherbury shook her head as if her ears were betraying her.
Did you say that the Righteous Brotherhood killed her?
She asked. Lucy and Bristol nodded.
But how is that possible? You're standing right in front of me.
Yeah, well, they covered me in chains made of bloodstone, Bristol recalled. I tried to fight it off, but the chains made me weaker and weaker, and I eventually drifted to the other side. I traveled to a big gray field floating somewhere between the world of the living and the great unknown. There were stars and planets and galaxies all around me, and I could feel and hear them just as easily as I could see them. The field was covered with hundreds of gorgeous white trees, and each tree had the name of a different person and a silver clock that was counting down their time left on Earth, and it was all so strange and frightening, yet beautiful and peaceful at the same time. Well, until now, Madame Weatherbury had been glancing back and forth at the girls as if they were telling her a morbid joke. But after Bristol's detailed account of the afterlife, her expression became very serious.
How did you come back to life?
She asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. Now buckle up, Madame Weatherbury, Lucy warned. This part makes your third act surprise seems like an intermission raffle. Bristol's posture sank. I made a deal with death.
Death?
Madame Weatherbury gasped.
Are you saying death is a person?
Yes, Bristol said. He looks exactly like I always imagined, and yet I wasn't really afraid of him at all. It's really hard to explain.
And what sort of deal did you make with him?
Madame Weatherbury pressed. Well, apparently several centuries ago, a woman took death into giving her immortality, and since then this woman, this immortal woman, has roamed the earth and made a mockery of everything that life and death stand for, and death said if I agreed to find and destroy the immortal, he would give me back my life, but the only way to destroy her is by using a spell from an ancient spell book, and he also said that I could use the same spell to annihilate the army of the dead, and once I knew that, I couldn't really turn him down. But, Lucy said, Bristol groaned, whose story was this? But Death only gave me a year to complete the mission. He said if I don't find the ancient spellbook and destroy the immortal in 12 months, he's going to take my life back.
Mm-hmm. And how much time do you have left?
Madame Weatherbury asked. Bristol winced. She knew this was going to be the hardest part to hear. 2 weeks? Madame Weatherbury was just a spirit, but the news was so shocking even she needed to sit down. Her knees buckled and her body dropped through the air as if she sunk onto an invisible seat.
Why didn't you tell me sooner?
The fairy asked. Well, for the record, I told her this cave should have been our first stop, Lucy said. Bristol didn't want to burden you with more problems. She thought your plate was full enough with, well, you know, the guilt of the unintentionally murdering thousands of innocent people and damaging massive amounts of property as the Snow Queen. Wow. Now that I say that out loud, I suddenly understand a little bit of where she was coming from. Madame Weatherbury studied Bristol's face with a suspicious gaze. There was something Bristol wasn't telling her. Lucy's right. I didn't want to trouble you, Bristol said, and then quickly changed the subject. Well, we were hoping that you could help us find the ancient spellbook. We've searched every library, nearly every bookstore in the world, and so far we haven't found a trace of it anywhere. Madame Weatherbury, have you ever heard of a spellbook that's powerful enough to destroy an immortal, or, like, what book it's in? Madame Weatherbury got to her feet and quietly paced around the frigid cave. Her translucent hand rubbed her translucent chin, and she went deeper and deeper into thought. She searched her memory for an answer. The girls could tell one idea in particular kept coming back to her. No matter how many times Madame Weatherbury waved the notion of it off, she returned to it again and again, like a hungry pet. Finally, she had no choice but to acknowledge it.
Well, as a matter of fact, I have heard of a book that does fit this description, Madam Weatherbury said. I believe Death was referring to, the Book of Sorcery.
Hearing the title sent shivers down Bristol's and Lucy's spines. They both stood straight up, eager to learn more. Yeah, what's the Book of Sorcery? Lucy asked. Isn't sorcery just another word to describe magic? Bristol asked.
Well, traditionally, sorcery is used to describe the most ancient practices of magic, Madam Weatherbury explained. And according to legend, the Book of Sorcery is the most powerful spellbook ever created. They say in ancient times a group of sorcerers and sorceresses, both good and evil, gathered together and catalogued their greatest enchantments in one manuscript. The book has the power to control all the elements in the universe. There are spells to take lives away from the living, spells to give life to the dying, and spells to, well, even resurrect the dead. The book can bestow extraordinary gifts to the weak and strip abilities from the strong. It can take someone through space and time. It can summon a choir of angels from heaven or an army of demons from the depths of hell. Naturally, if a book like that fell into the wrong hands, it could bring about the end of existence as we know it. So the sorcerers and sorceresses hid the Book of Sorcery far away, in the only place it would be safe.
Where? Lucy and Bristol asked in unison.
The Temple of Knowledge,
Madam Weatherbury said. Bristol and Lucy were fascinated, but neither of them had ever heard of such a place. Madam Weatherbury, I've traveled to every corner of the kingdoms, and I've never seen a Temple of Knowledge before, Bristol said.
That's because it's not part of the known world, she said. The location is magically concealed from all maps and globes to protect the objects inside it. Just like the Book of Sorcery, the temple contains a vault that harbors, well, other extraordinary objects with remarkable capabilities.
Is the temple difficult to get into? Lucy asked.
Well, extremely, Madam Weatherbury said. Legend says the temple is also protected by a tribe of unlikely guardians who've dedicated their lives to keeping it safe from intruders. Even if you get past them, you must survive a series of physical, mental, and emotional tests waiting to get inside the temple. And finally, before entering the vault, you must come face to face with the deadliest and most dangerous creature to ever roam the earth.
Oh, is that all? Lucy asked with a nervous laugh. Sounds like a jazz club I snuck into once. Maybe there's a bouncer we can bribe. Bristol appreciated Lucy's attempt to make light of the situation, but just the thought of finding and surviving the Temple of Knowledge made her feel lightheaded. We've got to get back to the academy and tell the others, Bristol said. The sooner we start looking for the Temple of Knowledge, the better off we'll be. Bristol headed out of the tunnel without saying goodbye to Madam Weatherbury, and Lucy cleared her throat to get her attention. Aren't you forgetting something? She asked. What? Bristol asked. Lucy rolled her eyes. The Book of Sorcery and the Temple of Knowledge are a great start, but we also need to find the Immortal, too. Otherwise, you're toast, she reminded her. Madam Weatherbury, do you have any clue who the Immortal Woman is? The fairy went quiet again as she thought about it, but unfortunately nothing came to mind.
No, I'm sorry, Madam Weatherbury said, but perhaps I can give guidance on how to find her.
Fantastic, we're all ears, Lucy said.
First, I suspect the Immortal would gain a lot of attention if they stayed in one place for too long, so I would look for a woman who's lived in many different parts of the world, she said. Second, I also suspect the Immortal wouldn't want to spend eternity working, so I bet she found a way to remain wealthy. Keep an eye on women in the upper classes. Third, someone with that much life experience is bound to leave an impression on someone else. I would consult the elders of each village. Maybe they have an old and recent memory of the same person.
Worldly, wealthy, and wild. Got it. Lucy clung to every word of Madam Weatherbury's advice and started taking notes of her suggestions. Bristol stayed silent and only pretended to listen, but mentally she was focused on finding the Temple of Knowledge. Eventually she became so fixated on it that her attentive facade dissolved completely and her eyes darted around the cave.
You aren't listening to a word that I'm saying.
The voice came out of nowhere and startled Bristol. She looked over her shoulder and saw that Madam Weatherbury was standing right behind her, but strangely, she looked back in front of her and Madam Weatherbury was still talking to Lucy, too. How are you in two places at once? Bristol asked.
You'd be amazed at the things a spirit can do without a body weighing them down, Madam Weatherbury said. Now, Why aren't you listening to my advice about the immortal?
I am listening, Bristol said, and Madame Weatherbury raised an eyebrow at her.
Bristol, you're the best student I've ever had, and I can tell when you're interested in a subject and when you're not.
No problem, Mary, no problem at all. Bristol could feel her heart rate starting to rise. Well, I think that finding the Book of Sorcery is a better use of our time, she said. Finding the book will help us save the world from the righteous brotherhood, but destroying the immortal will only save me. And what are the chances that we'll actually find her in 2 weeks?
Ah, I see, Madame Weatherbury said. You don't want to find her.
Of course I want to find her, Bristol lied. What makes you think I don't?
Because you always accomplish what you set out to, despite how impossible it may seem, Madame Weatherbury said. So there's only one logical explanation for why you aren't setting your mind on the immortal. You don't want to find her, and I'm not letting you leave this cave until you tell me why.
Bristol took a deep breath and let out a long sigh. This was the moment she'd spent the last year trying to avoid, and now that she was finally here, Bristol knew it was useless to hide the truth. There's no point in searching for the immortal, she said. Even if we find her, I could never go through with it. I could never kill someone.
So you're just going to let yourself die?
I don't want to die, but I can't justify taking someone else's life to save my own, especially a woman whose only crime is living.
Is that why you waited so long to see me?
Madame Weatherbury asked. Bristol nodded. I knew it would break your heart.
And what about your friends? They must be beside themselves.
I haven't told them yet, Bristol said. Trust me, I've spent months agonizing over this, but I don't see another option. Even if I did destroy the immortal, I couldn't live with myself afterwards. I'd much rather die twice than kill someone once. There's nothing you can do to help me. Bristol expected Madame Weatherbury to passionately object and continue the argument for as long as possible, but surprisingly, the fairy didn't try to change her mind. Instead, Madame Weatherbury looked toward the back of the cave, somberly staring at the Snow Queen.
No, you're right, she said softly. I wouldn't wish that kind of guilt on anyone. It's far worse than death.
Until now, Bristol had never realized how much pain Madame Weatherbury was in. Being trapped in the cave with the Snow Queen's frozen body was a constant reminder of all the mistakes that she had made and the people she had hurt. Bristol could tell what a tremendous toll it had taken on Madame Weatherbury's soul. Before she could think of something comforting to say, Madame Weatherbury disappeared from Bristol's side, and at the same time, the other Madame Weatherbury wrapped up her conversation with Lucy.
Last but not least, I would suggest searching for a woman who owns a lot of antiques, the fairy suggested. The Immortals collection could be mementos in disguise.
Yeah, well, that shit beats chasing old ladies and obituaries. Thanks for the tips, Madame Weatherbury, Lucy said. Okay, Bristol, now we can leave.
Will I see you again?
Madame Weatherbury asked. But Bristol knew this might be the last time she would ever see Madame Weatherbury, and she didn't have the heart to tell her that. Saying a final goodbye to Madame Weatherbury was just too painful to bear. I'll try to come back as soon as I can, she said.
Please do, the fairy said. Good luck, girls. I'm here whenever you need me.
Bristol and Lucy headed out of the cave, and Madame Weatherbury waved happily as they left, but once they were out of sight, her cheerful expression drained away. Bristol's situation made Madame Weatherbury feel more powerless and trapped than ever before. Her anguished eyes drifted toward the Snow Queen once more, but this time, the sight of the dreadful witch gave the fairy a surprisingly hopeful idea. Perhaps Bristol was wrong. Perhaps there was something Madame Weatherbury could do to help her. What could it be? Is she going to release the Snow Queen to try to kill the immortal? Uh-oh. Maybe. Maybe. Wow. I mean, yeah, it's true. The Snow Queen doesn't care, right? She has no qualms about it, and she's already killed so many people. What's one more, I guess, right? I don't know. It does. It gets deeper and deeper. I don't know how we're going to let this cast of characters go. I hope he has more coming in some way. Like, I don't know. The fact that this is the last book of this, like, series is really... Yeah, that's true, Sloth. It does seem a little too easy. I hope he's writing more in this series. I really do. Because I don't know. I don't want to let it go. Sad. So sad. All right, I'll see you guys later. I know, me either, Nice. I can't believe it either. All right, you guys. Well, let's all write him letters. How about that? Are you doing book club on Thursday? I was going to unless people are busy and they don't think I should. But I didn't have plans not to. We don't have anything going on. That's true. They'd still have to find the book and the woman. Yeah, we need to tell him we need more. Yeah. All right, guys. I will see y'all later. I hope you have a great rest of your day. You're just planning your day. Fair enough. Yeah. I will try to get these uploaded. I'm still working with YouTube, and hopefully these will all be uploaded sooner rather than later. Have a great day until then. Bye, guys.